begin, we'll start with a little meditation commentary. So just taking a moment to sit still, be comfortable, bringing your awareness to your breath. Maybe closing the eyes if you wish and bringing the awareness inwards. Just focus on your breath on each and every inhale and exhale. Slowing the breath down, keeping the abdomen soft. So on the inhale, we inflate the abdomen, and on the exhale, sucking the abdomen back towards the spine. Long, slow, deep breaths. The body is still uncomfortable. Breath is rhythmic. The mind becomes present, simply arriving. The mind is simply an observer, observing the body and the breath. And so the mind becomes filled with a sense of peace and appreciation. Okay, so good evening everybody. My name is Bhavesh and I'll be guiding you through this evening's creative meditation session. The theme for today's session is filling your treasure store. So how full is your treasure store? Your treasures of the qualities of the soul. So the qualities of the soul are peace, love, bliss, power, purity. These divine virtues are the treasures, or when I become aware of I, the soul, these treasures come from the inside out. So is our treasure store full? Or do we spend too much from our treasure store in external things? Is our treasures based on a job or a possession or a relationship? If it's based on external things, then it becomes limited. So the question is my treasure store full? Or how do I fill my treasure store? So this is our first poem of today. Firstly, I, the soul, connecting to the Supreme, is sort of the method of filling the treasure store. Drawing spiritual energy, which then we can use to feed into peace, love, bliss, happiness. So we'll share this first poem today. It's called Lord of the Poor. And she's just going to put up the artwork for Lord of the Poor. Funny story about this image is it's a self-portrait of myself from a couple of years back. Anyway, Lord of the Poor. Om Shanti. Spiritual wealth is happiness and health, just flowing at the core, enjoying every moment, knowing the natural law, unknown what is in store. As time ticks on, comes the prick of ego. The wealth of happiness decays, caught in a different lace, changes the face. When we run poor, begins the spiritual snore. Try and change the tones, looking for loans, looking to borrow, but this brings more sorrow. may have disrupt, but all things corrupt, until only spiritually bankrupt. Now only comes the Lord of the poor, not the rich, they are still locked in the rich. Only the poor can see past the gloss and know what was lost. The Lord of the poor says, you are incorporeal, not this soil. You are incognito, underground. Listen for the sound. Uncover the soul that was lost in the roll. Rediscover your wealth. Brings happy, good health. Fill the bank balance and reveal your talents. The way to spiritually overflow, to show your glow. Just cling only to the Lord of the poor. Sing only his law. Attached to this ring of love and light, we saw Om Shanti. So Lord of the poor, it's all simply about understanding that we create a practice so we can have a connection with the Supreme or with God every now and then. But if we have a constant practice, the battery is constantly charged, the treasure store is full, because throughout our days and throughout our living, we always spend from our treasure store in many different directions. And sometimes if we spend too much, the bank balance comes down, or the bank balance goes low, or we may even come into an overdraft. So to continually fill the bank balance, the Lord of the poor, it's another name for the divine, the supreme. This image above us represents the soul and the supreme. So firstly, seeing myself as the soul, and then connecting to the divine. So the title for him today is The Lord of the Poor, because he continually puts into our spiritual bank, and then it's up to us to save, to spend from this spiritual bank. So it's all about continually creating a practice, and when we have a practice, we won't spend as much. We know how much to spend, and we start to accumulate in our spiritual bank. The divine is known as the bestower, who bestows in this bank. And then our spiritual treasures of love, peace, happiness, bliss, and contentment continues to overflow. This is why he's known as the Lord of the poor. The image itself is just, connecting to the divine. And that's what this experience is all about. The more we learn to create a conscious practice, not just every now and again, but really bring it into our lifestyle. We'll never have a spare moment here and there. We can connect to the divine, and that allows us to deposit, and that allows the divine to deposit into our spiritual bank. So if we look on a physical level, of work is a big part. Going to work is a big part of our lifestyles, because it's through going to work that we earn money to be able to pay for the luxuries in our lives, or pay for basic living costs. Everything works around money these days. But a spiritual money, or a spiritual currency, is energy. And this is seen through the face. It's seen through the eyes. You can see somebody who's empty, who's tired. Or you can see somebody who's full of life, full of energy. And this is done through this practice of drawing energy from above, from the Supreme, from the Divine. On a physical, so what we'll do a breathing exercise first. and then we'll do a meditation experience, because a breathing exercise is all about what kind of breathing exercise can we do to, if we're feeling tired, to gain a bit of energy. And so this breathing exercise is known as Kapalabhati, or shining skull, as they call it in English, shining skull. This is a breathing exercise that helps bring fresh oxygenated blood into the body, which in turn helps us gain more energy, especially if we're feeling tired. So I'll demonstrate how this works first, and then we can do it together if you wish. Once again, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, then you could always just observe. But the benefit from doing it is it brings energy. So just placing one hand on the abdomen, just below the navel. And we're just going to bring the breath into this. As we inhale, we're just going to make the abdomen really, really big. And then we're going to focus on the exhale. So on the exhale, it's going to be very sharp. So we're going to release all the air very quickly. So it's almost like you're sucking the abdomen back to the spine and releasing the air. So inhaling, and then as we exhale, it's like a sound like this. Sucking the abdomen in, forceful exhale, and then the inhale happens quite naturally. So what we'll do, we'll start off with 20 counts of this, and then we'll move to 30 counts, and then we'll do a final round of 50 counts. Again, at any points, if you do feel a bit lightheaded or dizzy or anything like that, do stop, and then just go back to your normal breathing. So we're just going to do this in unison to begin with, a few preparation breaths before we begin. So once again, the benefit of this is actually bringing energy on a physical level by bringing fresh oxygenated blood coming around the body. So that's the benefit of this practice. It also makes us feel quite warm from the inside out. So shining skull, or Kapalabhati as it's known. So exhaling completely. Take a deep inhale, and then exhale. So we're going to do 10 rounds this time around. Inhaling, and then begin. Taking an inhale and just coming back to your natural breathing. Once again, just taking a few natural breaths. And then exhaling completely. This time around, we're going to do 20 counts. Inhaling together. And begin. Off we go. Exhaling completely. And then coming back to your natural breathing, just take 5 long, slow, deep inhales and exhales. So maybe keeping the hand on the lower abdomen, just feeling the breath coming in and out of the body. And taking a deep inhale, exhaling completely, and then preparing, taking a deep inhale, 50 counts this time round, and off we go. And taking a deep inhale. And then exhaling, just coming back to your natural breathing. Just observe the body. Maybe you feel a bit of warmth around the body. Maybe the alertness awakens. If there's any tiredness, just observing it dissipating. So this is Kapalabhati, or shining skull, breath. So if at any point if you feel tired and you need to bring energy to the body, it's a good breathing exercise to use. So now we're going to take this into a meditation experience. So just sitting comfortably, feet grounded down to the ground. As we inhale, lengthening the spine, exhale, rolling the shoulders back and down, hands come back down to the knees. I simply create the thought, I, the spiritual being, the soul, seated within the body. I simply switch off from the sense organs of the body, closing the eyes if we wish, or we can keep them open, finding a point of focus, maybe using this point behind me. And as I focus on this point, I draw my energy from the body upwards towards the center of the forehead. Arms are relaxed, legs are relaxed. Breath is natural and slow. And I bring my awareness to the third eye, the seat of the soul within the body. And the practice of doing this brings a level of peace already. And if I don't feel any peace, then it's okay, that's fine. Just simply observe. Taking my mind upwards to the home of the soul, this soul world, backstage, off this physical stage of performance, off the world stage, to our home. And in this home of the soul, I come in front of the divine. I come in front of this divine energy, this Lord of the poor. And by coming in front of the Lord of the poor, I draw an energy of peace, a pure energy into the soul. Filling the bank balance of the soul, this currency of energy, this spiritual currency, naturally received from the divine. Fills the treasure store. The spiritual wealth is our happiness, our health. And it's by filling this treasure store that we'll always remain a giver. A giver in our hearts, one who bestows as well. And then we naturally radiate this energy out as a giver. If the treasure store is full, we naturally give. If the treasure store is empty, then we need to create this practice of taking from the divine, The divine has an unlimited treasure store to give from. It is our inheritance, as the divine is the father and the mother of the soul. I have a right to take as much as I need to fill our capacity. And then to give, and to give more. The divinity is seen through the face, seen through the eyes. So do develop this practice of turning inwards, developing our soulful state, our soulful nature, and then taking from the divine. Just as we have to go to work to earn money, to spend, to take care of ourselves, in the same way, spiritual wealth, spiritual energy, we have to make a practice on a regular basis, just like on a regular basis, 5 times a week we have to go to work. I'm making this practice on a regular basis, every day if we can, a couple of minutes. It's almost like a piggy bank we're putting an investment in ourselves, an investment into a relationship with this Lord of the Poor, who's constantly giving. And by making this investment, we're able to spiritually overflow and to be able to be a giver from our very experience, our very vibrations, of our very presence inspires or gives. The second poem is called Service of God's Lap. So Namisha's just going to put up the artwork for this. The Service of God's Lap. Om Shanti. The greatest fortune is to be in tune with the intellect that remains perfect. This enables an all-round actor to take in all factors, brings peace to reactors, only ever sitting in God's lap, who reveals the true map, starts the inner clap of self-service. Make firm this habit, it performs magic, like rabbits jumping in, touching the intellect, brings out a stage of ascent from the descent, sets a new trend by keeping the company of this friend. Fill the apron full of jewels. This will keep the stage cool. Serve both the head, keep it fed as it brings clarity. Fill the heart with art as it brings creativity. There will be no leak where there is a need to peak. Make this stage strong, nothing ever goes wrong. In the end, all will belong and attach their prong to the one who brings out the sun in each mind. Stay in this easiness, keep the mind in busyness. Know the secrets of the heart by going within to start. Free them from their nappies, make them happies. However, keep disinterest. That way, it will always be for the best. No urges, the fruit will always emerge. Om Shanti. So this is the service of God's lap. So it's interesting how sometimes we can get very caught up in the service that we do What is the service that we do? If the service that we do is praised and accepted by people, then we feel great. We feel, wow, yes, I'm making a difference. But if the service that we do is not accepted or not acknowledged or taken for granted, how do we feel then? How do we feel? There could be a feeling of dejection, a feeling of, oh, what's the point of doing this? There's nothing happening. Am I really making a difference? So this sort of quality comes out, and this is known as dejection. So one, where for it accepted, we feel great. The other one, if it's just sort of taken for granted, then we feel dejected. We feel like, what's the point? Why am I doing what I'm doing? So this is the service of God's lap. Basically, this poem is all about creating a balance for serving the self, as well as doing service on an external level. This dejection comes about when we overvalue the external and undervalue our service for the self. So as you can see, this image, it's an image of a soul, the sparkling star, sitting in a lap. And you can see it as a divine lap, a lap of the divine. And it's by sitting in a divine lap is where we are serving the self, knowing that everything I do on a physical level is enough. I do my very best. That's all I can do. Nothing else more, nothing else less. But this practice of sitting in a divine lap is all about surrendering whatever service that we do on a physical level, whether it's cleaning, whether it's washing, or whether it's cooking, whether it's taking care of, giving care to somebody, whether it's accepted or it's not accepted, because it's a surrendered service that I'm doing, we free ourselves from feelings of dejection. Because sometimes the eye of ego comes into the service, and when the eye of ego is there in the service, we can, if it's not acknowledged, we feel dejected. So this practice of sitting in God's lap and surrendering the service that we do, in the end, we are beyond the influence of the result of the service, whether it's acknowledged or whether it's taken for granted. It's okay. Absolutely okay. So that's what this image represents. This practice of serving the self is simply learning to sit in God's lap, to sit in a divine lap where we are completely valued, not for what we do, but for who we are. And when we value ourselves for who we are, what we do on an external level is naturally successful, because our service is actually based on our stage. If our stage is right, then we do things with love. If our stage is looking for praise, looking for acknowledgement, the intention behind the service is not quite right. So is it even a positive action? If we're looking for praise, if we're looking to be acknowledged. Dejection only comes if we're looking for acknowledgement for the service we do. And we've undervalued ourselves and overvalued the external. So this is the practice of sitting in God's lap, where we surrender our services that we do, but also at the same time, we value ourselves. We develop a value of the self in order to serve in such a natural and easy way that we're beyond the effect of the service that we do. That's what this image represents, sitting in God's lap. So we can take the artwork down. Brilliant. So just think of a moment in your day where you do something for somebody and it's not acknowledged, it's taken for granted. Feelings that may come up if my value is too much on the external and I haven't valued myself enough. So this practice of sitting in God's lap simply means being a child, being valued, and then performing service from this awareness allows the self to really be at a position where we're beyond the effect of the action that we perform. It's a very high stage. Can we be there? Can we perform actions but yet be free from the influence of the effect? Naturally, at some point in the future, we receive the effect. Whether it's if we perform a good action, we receive in the future. If we perform a negative action, once again, we receive that in the future. But the future can be the very next moment. I can give a lovely talk here and then receive so much praise. My account is settled there and then because I've received the praise. Or I can save in our spiritual bank for that good act to be settled sometime in the future. So if I'm looking for praise, sure, I'll receive it. However, the account is settled there and then. Whereas if I'm beyond the effect of the service that we do, then that account is still to be settled in the future. This is us accumulating in our spiritual bank account. So spiritual bank account sort of works on 3 levels. The first level is a thought level. We're sending out thoughts of positive energy. We're accumulating. The second level is through our words. That's also a spiritual currency. We can serve through our words. We can use words that uplift and encourage people. Or we can use words that demean, embarrass, and put people down. So just be careful of the words we use. And the third aspect, or the third part of this currency, is actions. So the actions we perform. The intention behind the actions is also part of this spiritual currency. So we perform good actions, there's a return in our future. If we perform bad actions, there's a return again in our future. But if you look at these 3, actions, words, and thoughts, just like in our days now, we get or even in the British currency, we get a penny, which is copper. We get 5p's and 50p's, which are silver. Then you get the old pounds, which are sort of a golden color. So if you look at these 3, which one is gold? Which one is silver? Which one is copper? Everything starts from a thought. Thought affects words. Words affects actions. So on the action level is the copper coin. On the words level, it's the silver coin. But it's our thoughts. We can pay attention to our actions, which are gross. Words are a bit more subtle, but our thoughts are the most subtlest. And it's when we have this ability of turning inwards and upwards, can we take control of our thoughts? And it's the thoughts that affect the actions. It's the thoughts that affect the words. It's the thoughts that create an attitude and a vision. And it's this which is the golden coin. The golden coin which affects the other 2. And this is how we can sit in God's lap, create our stage there, accumulate in our bank balance. And then when it comes to serving, we are beyond the effect of the serving. We serve to the best of our ability, but then we're able to let go and be free from the result of the serving. So this is the practice now. Just sitting where we are, taking a deep breath. Lengthen the spine, rolling the shoulders back and down. Tucking the chin in slightly, lifting the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. So our posture is very important. Body still and comfortable. Mind is still. We're simply observing. And using our intellect, we gently steer the thoughts into a direction where it's productive, where it's positive. Bringing our awareness upwards to the divine. I, the soul, the spiritual being, sit in front of the divine. And when I'm here, I'm able to free myself from any negative thoughts, free myself from any wasteful thoughts. And I create a thought of peace. And this thought of peace radiates through the self. This thought of peace gives me energy. This thought of peace raises my level of awareness. By which I'm able to steer the thoughts. By which I'm able to take control of the self, of the mind. Each and every thought is valuable. So I value the thoughts completely present in this moment, filled with a sense of peace and appreciation. Om Shanti. So today's session was all about filling that treasure store and then using that treasure store to serve. So once again, just being aware of the posture, lengthening the spine, rolling the shoulders back and down, tucking the chin in slightly, lengthening the back of the neck. So the body is still and comfortable. And just bring in front of you this image of I, the soul, sitting in God's lap, where I am completely valued, completely loved. I just immerse myself in that feeling of being a child, being carefree, being light, sitting in God's lap, sitting in my father's lap or my mother's lap. And it's this experience of feeling loved from the divine that allows us to play our parts and yet be beyond the effect. of the service we do. Because what is really important is the value and relationship I have with the divine. The divine takes away all our problems and gives us the experience of being like a child, light, protected. So develop this practice of feeling protected, feeling light as a child, keeping this image of sitting in God's lap in my mind. I feel safe. I feel secure. I feel accepted. Om Shanti.